A little show prep, nose blow. Okay, showtime. Showtime. We're live. Hey, it's Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. Today is, let's see, 14. Oh, looks like my face is kind of dirty. I've been making biochar. It's 14 May 2024. I'm your host coming to you from lovely Marion, Michigan on Baker's Green Acres. And tonight, we're going to be talking about the Economics 101 and the Homestead, but more specifically, the US dollar and the Homestead. Okay, that was the subject that I kind of thought, because of a couple of conversations that I had today, one with my wife this morning, and then with another one with Copperhead. We were talking milking, and a subject keeps coming up, right? Keeps coming up. So I want to talk about it tonight and kind of flesh that out if we could a little bit. But before I do that, I want to let you know what I did today, because I think that's important. I've kind of strayed away from doing that, but I think it's important for people to know what goes on a farm like this on a daily basis. Okay, so what really happens here? You know, are we just doing the farm so we have content to come on and yak about this? You know, is the show the reason for the farm, or is the show the reason for the farm, or is the farm the reason for the show? That's a good question. But I kind of like to go through what we did. So today, normal day, pretty much. Tuesday, Frank and I milk. We yesterday put our first batch of chicks out on the field. So what that means around here is we have to get the chicken tractors out on the field, and they've been stored all winter long. We don't put them anyplace. We just leave them out there, but we usually line them up and put them up against the fence line so that they don't get hit by, snow plows or snowmobiles or anything like that. And so they're sitting in a row, and then I like to get them up off the ground. So I usually like to put a block of wood under each corner so they're up, and they can stay dry, even though the chicken tractors that we build, we build them with ground contact wood, the part that's touching the ground. That's a subject for another time probably. But we yesterday pulled out 3 of them because we had, I think, 240 birds to put out. So we only needed 3 chicken tractors. Each chicken tractor takes 80, right? So pulled them out, got the tarps on, got the water system up and running, and we determined that our water system was missing some parts that we were going to have to put together. And it sort of happens on a regular basis. Some of the parts we make them. And I haven't found the proper adhesive yet. I tried a new adhesive this time, and we'll see. But I need to fuse 2 pieces together. I need to fuse a barb fitting and then a PVC plug fitting together. And I've used several different things. I've used hot glue. I've used marine cement. I've used shoe glue. This time I used an adhesive called T9000. So I have never used it before. So we'll see. But for now, they're going to work. And we had to wait 24 hours before we could get it hooked up. And so today, that was what we worked on. And my son, Jim, is taking that over from Rachel. She was the chicken tractor queen last year for the last few years, and she's done a really good job on it. And so Jim's got a tough act to follow. But this time I'm going to do a lot more training with him. I'm going to challenge him, and he really did a good job today. He's got the chicken tractors, the interval of them very good. He's got them configured properly. Everything is 100%. So we got that squared away this morning. At the same time, milking began. When me and Frank are milking, he's usually the primary, so he's the guy actually in the barn. I normally put the equipment together, and then he milks, and then I take the milk and bring it into the kitchen, not the house kitchen, but the kitchen down there, and either put it in jugs or put it in jars or put it in bottles, whatever it calls for that day. Today, and this is what sparked this conversation, the schedule changes. And today, there was nobody on the schedule for milk. And so we wound up with 15 gallons of milk. Beautiful, beautiful. The milk now is so precious because it's full, new grass coming up out of the ground. The spring flush is upon us. It's not in full swing yet. We had 70 degrees today, but it's getting there. And so the milk changes. It gets richer and yellower, and it's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. So when I look at the schedule, it had changed slightly. I kind of screech to a halt, like, oh, I got 15 gallons of milk here and nobody to match it up with. And so you feel a bit panicky and a bit defeated, in the moment. You feel it. I don't say anything, but I kind of feel it. And then I think, okay, what do we got to do? What do we got to do? Can I lean on somebody to do some more marketing, to get more people? Well, if we have a whole bunch of people and then we have to dry a cow off, now we have less milk. Now what? Now we have to cut people's milk. You don't want to do that because you lose customers. And people grow to depend on this. Raw milk is really you don't see how precious it is until you don't have it, And when you are in a position like I'm here when people are wheeling through, you wind up in a conversation. I always want to know, like, you came a long way for this milk and you come every week and you're paying a pretty penny for it. Why? I want to know. And so you hear what people have to say is valid for sure. There's no doubt about it. We feel the same way. We raised our kids on raw milk, grass-fed raw milk. And I don't think there's any, I don't think you can go much better, but maybe you can. And that's what this is going to be about. So I had milk left over from Sunday because Sunday's almost an identical day. I have no milk customers on Sunday. We don't encourage people to go through the farm on Sunday. We don't. We kind of like to keep the farm kind of quiet. And, if people got to come on Sunday, I don't tell them they can't, but I usually don't engage them. And I usually, people are they have their thing that they're doing. But I had 15 gallons of milk from Sunday too. And I put it in the cooler in buckets and wrote on the lids of the buckets. I got a really nice setup for these buckets. And I found some really cool lids that had a gasket in them. I got them from Home Depot, believe it or not, just a black plastic bucket, pliable, you can snap it on, but then you can get it off with your hand. Real nice. Pull the gasket out of it so there's no place for nasties to hide. So I had that, and I said to Jill, hey, we got to do something because I need some buckets, and she says, oh, okay, no problem. I'll come down and I'll skim it. So she comes down. She has this scoop that she always uses, and she skims it. Droop, 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 takes all the cream off. That goes in another bucket, and then it comes to the house, goes in the churn. A short time later, there's this beautiful blob of butter sitting on the counter, and then she's got another one going. And this blob is probably 4 pounds, 4 or 5 pounds of yellow, beautiful yellow butter, right? And when I see that, it calms me down, right? So stay with me. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So that butter, Jill has people ask her to buy butter a lot. And she says, "I'm sorry, we just can't support you." Because if we don't have it in our house for the kids and for me and for Jill and for, our guests that come here, we feel like we've we're not living our best quality life. And I mean, it's not like people fall down on the floor and start crying or anything like that. It's just like when you take a stick of butter out of the fridge that came from the store, it's kind of like, it tastes good, but I don't know what I'm putting in myself when I eat this stuff. Where our butter, I know what's in it. The only thing that is not milk that's in there, that's just fresh milk from cows that are eating grass, our grass that I take care of, ground that I take care of. The only thing that's in there is salt. And we're pretty particular about the salt that goes in there. We're not using cheap salt. We're using good Celtic salt, And so when you eat that butter, it not only tastes good, but it is good. So if I were to sell that butter, and let's say that we put a price tag on it of X amount, and I said, well, we don't have any butter, but I got these dollars here. Anymore, that doesn't really compute. All right. I have US dollars, but I have no butter. That doesn't compute. There's a whole bunch of thoughts start coming into my mind at this point. And I've talked to you guys about this book, 80 Acres. If Beth the Cleric was here, she's read that book. Well, maybe International Homesteading. But in that book, it was a farm family that lived maybe about 4 miles that way, 4 or 5 miles that way. And the guy that wrote the book was one of the children, and he's gone now. He's passed on. The only kid that's left is in a nursing home. She's old. She's real old. And in the book, the parents, his name was Jess. I don't remember the mom's name. Maybe you remember, Beth. I don't remember her name. I just don't remember her name. She didn't come up much in the book, but the dad did. His name was Jess Jaeger or Jaeger. I don't know, spelled with a J. I don't know. They were farming this area during the Depression. And from what you glean out of the book, they worked hard, right? But they didn't feel the Depression at all because in their minds, they were wealthy people. They felt that they were wealthy people. And just felt he was a wealthy man because he had cream and sugar in his coffee. So that was his goalpost as to what a wealthy person has. Of course, back then, this was in the 30s, 20s and 30s. They didn't have Carnival cruises to go on, right? They didn't have that. So he wasn't feeling like he was missing out on Carnival cruises. They didn't have flat screen TVs that were 6 feet by 12 feet. So he didn't feel like he was missing out on that. They didn't have trips to Las Vegas where you can gamble and get free drinks. They didn't have that, right? So he never felt like he was missing out on anything because he had everything that there was. He had everything that there was. He had cream and sugar, and there was other things. He had tools. He felt that his tools gave him the ability to create his way of life. He focused on that very intently. I remember in the book. He had time. He had time with his children. He had time to go rabbit hunting. He thought that that was pretty important. And a lot of people still do rabbit hunt around here. You can't eat the thing. They're covered with fleas, but there are a lot of rabbits. My kids rabbit hunt and they think it's pretty cool. Yeah, Dion says something about if only they offered shots of raw milk at the slot machines. Hey, maybe that's something to think about there, D. Maybe. Right? So, and we have a tendency as modern Americans to say, well, yeah, but this is the modern times. Well, what are the bells and whistles that we're being told that we need? What are all these things, right? My family's fortunate in that we don't get TV here for whatever reason. I'm not really sure. When we moved here, we didn't have a TV, and I don't know. Nobody really looked into it. My parents-in-law's house, I saw TV over there probably about 5 years ago, and the commercials were sickening. They were so many and so repetitious that I was like, I can't even watch this. And I think we were trying to watch football at Thanksgiving or something. Why? I don't know. Because that's what you do, I guess. I don't know. But that was pretty sickening too. I don't know. It just wasn't like it used to be when I was a kid. So anyway, we're not inundated with all these things that we need. You know, if you don't have this, you don't. You know, I don't get into the Kardashians, I guess. I don't even know how I know that name. I couldn't pick them out. I really couldn't. Dancing with the Stars, I've never seen it. I've just never seen any of this stuff. It interests me. I'm not for anything. There is things that I like to watch, but we only our thing here. I'm not sure if it's working right or not, but there's only certain things we can get on it. But that's good enough. I watched a documentary last night on the B-24 bomber, which was built right here in the great state of Michigan during World War II. Kind of interesting. Anyway, so we're having this conversation about our milk, and then this surplus of milk kind of gave me a problem. And it's because I think we're trained in every other aspect from the time we're young that everything has a dollar value. That's not a bad thing. It's just, how do we manifest that? How do we manifest that? I know in my case, and Dion knows this because I called him on the phone one time, like, hey, 10 cows, we could make $100,000 a year, you know, and, you know, I'm kind of old school. 100,000, that's a lot of money. When I was getting out of high school, airline pilots were making 50,000, and that's a huge amount of money at that time. And you need that kind of money if you're going to go on Carnival cruises and go to Las Vegas and play the slots and everything else that people got to do, I guess. Disneyland and SeaWorld and Six Flags, Tragic Mountain, and all that stuff that I just can't stand that stuff. Oh boy, I forgot to brief you on something. I'll get to it in a minute. I'll get to it. Well, I can weave it into the story, so stand by. So that 15 gallons of milk, I said, okay, let's dedicate this day and Sunday's milk, 30 gallons of milk. Let's dedicate that to us. That's ours. We'll keep it's the best. We'll make butter out of it. And, it'll be ours. We don't have to sell it because our other milk customers throughout the week, they float the operation very nicely. Like I seem to have this goal that every drop of milk either has to be in the fridge, ready for me whenever I want it, and everything else is converted into dollars. And I'm starting to question that. Because if I don't have butter in the fridge, I'm not living my best life. I'm really not. And that's kind of a what's the word? It's kind of a somebody help me with this. It's kind of it's kind of an example, right? It's not like, oh, I had butter, I'm fulfilled. No, butter's important, milk's important, a cold refrigerator's important, all these things. But then other things, that's not important. I don't need that. We could afford 2 cars. We could, but we don't need it, and it's just like, so what? So I can have my own car? I don't need it. We have 1 car. Of course, I have a pickup truck, but it's 3/4 ton truck and 4-wheel drive. It's not like I need to be driving that around town. And I'm married, so I don't want, you know what I'm saying. And I have a 2-ton truck too, and that's the one that I use more actually. So I have wheels if I need them. I'm not stuck. But this attitude that I'm starting to embrace right now has made my life happier. Okay, so last night the kids had jujitsu, and Jill's doing jujitsu now too. I'm not going to do it because I've got my thing that I'm doing, and I just, getting beaten up for fun. Yeah, no, I'm not into it anymore. And I'm doing this, and I love doing this, right? And in some ways, when they go to jujitsu and they take the milk into Cadillac, it's kind of like, I'm on my own. I can do what I need to do here, and I'm not pestered. I shouldn't say pestered. I'm not interrupted, and it's late in the day, so it's 4 or 5 o'clock at night. So I can go until 9:30, and I've still got light, and the phone doesn't ring, people don't come through. It's quiet. So last night I was doing a biochar burn, and I lit it off, and I sat down, and it was just gorgeous out. Just perfect. Warm. The biochar burner was going. I had built some apparatus out there to handle the barrels and stuff. And so I was kind of admiring that and thinking, well, I could do this and I could do that. And thinking, this is really cool. This is cool. So my mind isn't cluttered with gee, I wonder how that carnival tour is going to be, that carnival cruise that I've been wanting to go on. It's not cluttered. It's my mind stays clear with what I have to do here. And I think that my diet over the last few years has really changed. And I know that has a lot to do with it. Because I know it does, right? You may think I'm kind of a purist. I'm really not. I'm basically I could be an addict. I could be a drug addict easily because let's say I had access. I'm sure heroin's probably pretty good. Uh, and it's probably a really good buzz. And once you get that, you probably want it again. And I'm the type of person that, oh yeah, I'm going to get that again. But my buzz is when I make something or I perfect the process or I have an idea and then I get to execute the idea, or my family sits down and everybody's like, whoa, these steaks are great. That bull was nice, wasn't he? That's my fun. That is what I'm doing. That is what I'm living for, So I sort of chase that, I'm always looking for the next thing. And this fits in with a principle that I heard some time ago, and it's been festering in my mind. The three types of people. There are the people that spend all their time talking about other people, whether they're, oh, isn't that Donald Trump? Isn't he great? Or isn't that Donald Trump a turd? That type of thing. Either way, you're talking about other people. There's the kind of people that talk about things in the past. The older I get, the better I was. And I'm not saying you can't do that. I'm not saying, but if you spend too much time there, chances are they're doing that and they're talking about people. Those two types of people. And then there's the third type, and that's the person who has ideas. And they talk with their friends about ideas and then how to execute those ideas. And then they get together and they execute those ideas. Well, we don't have time to talk bad about anybody. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Who knows? The guy, you might be talking bad about a guy. Well, that guy really needs to take a bath. He stinks. But he might be an expert at some function that you're trying to figure out the way to get through on your homestead. And the homestead is a place, it doesn't have to be chicken tractors and pigs and cows. And I'm doing biochar right now and it is fascinating. And I just, Parker got me into this forum on Facebook, and it's really cool. I connected with a guy that I haven't seen in 15 years that actually educated me on biochar. His name is Peter Hurst. Right, he's out in New Hampshire now, but he, if you've ever heard of New England Biochar, which I think is a pretty big operation, I think last time I looked, but it might have been 5 years ago last time I looked at it. He built that company. Now maybe he's not in that company. I don't know. I'm going to talk to him on the phone here shortly because we connected up a little bit today. But anyway, what we're really talking about in homesteading is like a graph. There's certain things that you want. Now, if you have a young family, there's certain things that you need. Well, what does the homestead do? It gives you like a training aid for teaching your kids. I mean, meaningful work. You can train them. It's you give them a task and then you get to say, well done or not so well done. Let's try again. And that child is going to feel the praises and say, they'll be wagging their tail and they want to do it again. When you get an older family, not so much anymore, but then maybe you can have grandkids come on and you can use it for training. But the Homestead, I think, is one of the essential parts of it is you can create food that is the fuel for your body that houses your precious spirit, right? So if you have a foggy brain all the time, that's not good. That's really holding you back. How does that happen? Gee, I wonder. I wonder. And then the other thing is quality of life, right? So, like I said, sitting out, watching a burn go by myself, kind of just sitting out there. To me, that was a special time, and I really enjoyed it. And I probably more than watching, the Kardashians, probably more, right? I'm sure it's a quality program, and there's things that I would enjoy, but I enjoyed this. I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna stay here. This is good. I want to develop this. Okay, so that's my comparison, the US dollar to the Homestead. All right. So if we take the Homestead and say, are we rating it by, well, the bank account says that I don't have a whole bunch of money in there. That's not going to work for me, not at this point. I'm going to, that sunset was going to be there regardless of what I have in the bank, and the perfect thing would be to have a farm, get it paid for and facilitated and built up the way you want it. And then when you leave, when you go on to the next thing, whether it's through passing on or whatever it is, the dollars, you don't take them with you. You don't take them with you. And let's say you spent time in hospice. Are you going to be thinking about, well, at least I have $120,000 in the bank? I don't think so. You'll be thinking about, man, I'll never forget that sunset. I'll never forget that. That was a good time. I'll never forget that sunset out at the beach. I'll never forget, the time that we built this and then it worked. I'll never forget the time that so-and-so did this, and I remember one time in the military, we had a new general, right? And he had this revelation about quality of life, right? And everybody's like, what? Quality of life? Our quality of life was, you work 12 hours and then you get to sleep for a little while, being left alone and not covered in jet fuel and, not freezing cold. That was quality of life. Actual food to eat, right? But here we can do better than that. We can have healthy children. Our body can be healthy. I mean, I think because of the way I eat and my, being kept away from, I keep myself away. Well, I don't necessarily, but I'm not in an industrial environment where I'm exposed to terrible things all the time. My body doesn't have to flush all that stuff out. I mean, I don't have an aching body. I don't have a broken down body. And I really think that 120 is doable. I really do. And that puts me at halfway, a little over halfway. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with the thought, well, the average American, according to the CDC, average American male lives to 76 years. I'm not okay with thinking, well, I got about 10 years to go. I'm not okay with that. And I just somehow does not gut check with me. It just doesn't gut check with me. So that's my thought for today. That is my thought. And let's see. One of the things that I did do with that 15 gallons of milk, I had a milk separator that I got Wow, long time ago, probably 7 years ago. I asked Jill if we should get one, and it showed up, and it's a real nice one. Um, and I used it a couple of times. We had one cow at the time, and for us at when we were new at it, 5 gallons of milk. Gee, what do you do with that? Because we weren't sharing it. We weren't selling it, selling milk. We weren't doing that. So, but to run 2 gallons of milk through it or 4 gallons of milk through it, it's a lot of work to clean it. And so we kind of put it back together and put it on the shelf, and it's been there ever since. And Jill's just been skimming the milk right out of the bucket, and it really works pretty good. But I thought if we've got 15 gallons of milk, let's dust this thing off and put it back to work. And now we'll have cream. And hey, we can offer our customers really nice heavy cream. And let's see where this goes. And, so I did that. That took me till about noon to get that together and then experiment with it. And then I had a conversation with Carrie Cronk, that's Copperhead Farms, on the phone about that because they are doing the same thing. And she told me, oh no, that milk that we run through the separator, that's for us. And she said, no, we get the best first. We get the best first. Okay, so think about that principle for a minute. Like you're a homesteader and you process a beef, and the best cuts on there, the prime rib and the ribeye and all that stuff. You can get $20 a pound for that stuff. I'm not kidding. Good grass-fed beef, and in my opinion, it is worth it. Right? When I eat one of those steaks, it is worth it. It's worth every penny of it. Right? There was a time when we would sell that because we needed the money. And we were eating the hamburgers. There was a time. There was a time when we processed chickens and the breast meat and the legs and the good stuff, we were selling it. And then my family was eating the backs and the wings. And my kids got used to it. My kids love wings. Anymore, though, wings are kind of in demand. So we don't really have wings anymore. So you have those two different mentalities. Okay, we've got to sell the best. And my family eats the dent and bent because we need the money. Because we need the money. But did we really? Were our needs not fulfilled? If we live correctly within our means, we're not going to go on that Carnival cruise if we have to put it on a credit card. That whole credit thing is for the birds, honestly. It's a trap. It's usury is what it is. And you want to stay away from that. I think people should know that by now. But if we feel as though we've got the beautiful homestead, but we're just not fulfilled if we don't go to Disney World, I think I personally would want to reprioritize my thought process. I prefer to be where I am, right? You are being tracked. We've found a tracking cookie on your PC. Whoa. Okay. I'm not going to click on that. I just exited out of it. That's what it just came up. Okay. Maybe. Okay. So is that kind of clear? I'm going to go this way. The prime ribs and stuff, that's me. I'm keeping that. I can make enough dollars to fulfill what I need for dollars for paying for things that I can't pay for otherwise. I have to buy gasoline in dollars. They won't trade me up there. Insurance company, which is another scam, right? But a certain amount of it I have to have in order to drive. which is a real scam. It really is. Other things, the things like you can't pay the dentist. Well, actually, my dentist, I probably could. I could pay him off in beef. He gets the hamburger though, unless. Okay, I think you get my point. But that's what I think about this. And if the homesteading lifestyle does not bring you quality of life, maybe it's time to relook at it and shift some things around. I don't think it's ever going to be a time to just, well, let's can this and go a different direction, get that nice job at the factory I've been looking at. I think it's just time to shift things, right? Because we're always talking about course corrections, like you're going for a while and something's wrong here. Okay, let's shift our direction slightly and see if we get into calmer waters, or you can use a fishing analogy, which is kind of on my mind. We went fishing for the first time the other night. Me, Jill, and Frank had a wonderful time. I caught 6 pretty nice bass. Pretty nice. We didn't have a stringer with us, so we let them go. And, like you catch one and you think, well, I only got one. And then I caught like 5 more in a row, real nice ones. If we had kept them, that would have been cool. But then we have to clean them when we got home. And so we just decided not to keep them. All right. So that's my, that is my thought process for the day. Thanks to Copperhead Farm. She helped me out with that quite a bit. She had a lot to say about that. And Jill is kind of the same mindset there. And so I'm coming around. I'm coming around. When I get done tonight, I had a very light lunch at 2. And then because I know there's a really nice steak in the fridge with my name on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take like a tablespoon of this nice yellow, salty Jersey butter. And I'm going to go right in the pan, right? A black skillet sitting on the stove. And then I'm going to take that steak and I'm going to go, and I'm going to wait a minute. I'll put some salt on it. Might put a little garlic on it. Maybe some people think that's sacrilege, but I like it. And then I'm going to turn that baby over, the other side. And then I'm going to go in. I'm going to turn the TV on. Well, whatever it is, the monitor. It's not really a TV. And then I'm going to find me a good documentary. And about that time, my steak will be about done. And then I'm going to sit there and I'm going to cut chunks of it off and I'm going to eat it. And I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it. I'm going to say, I'm the richest man I know. I got it made. I got it made, right? Some of these steaks, I shouldn't share this with you, but I'm going to. Some of these steaks, we price them according to, what you can get for these high quality steaks, grass-fed steaks. Nice fat on them, and that's all grass. Beautiful, beautiful steaks. And I see price tags on them because this stuff all goes in the store. Oh yeah, it's available. It's available. You can, if you're willing to pay, but some of these steaks are north of $40 a piece. North. A 2 pound ribeye or a 2 pound T-bone. Beautiful. 7/8 of an inch thick. I caught them myself. Yeah, north of $40. Way north of $40. And I get to have that. Come on. I got it made. All right. So if anybody has comments on what I just talked about, put them in the chat here, and I will read them, and I will comment on them a little bit, but I have something else to brief. I have 2 other things to brief. One of them is not so pretty. Okay, Keith Sutton's with us. Dave Duncan's with us. International Homesteading. Hello from the Declaric Homestead. It's a good thing you included that because, okay, Dion's with us. There would be a major withdrawal with no raw milk. At your house? Yeah. Belva's with us. Belva Rockwell. Haven't seen those guys in a while. By the way, we do have our consulting call tomorrow night. For the Tribe Plus people that want to get in on that, Jill sends a notification out, and it goes out via your messages on your phone, and you get a code, and you can get into the Zoom meeting. The whole idea of the Zoom meeting is now we can talk about your homesteads. If you have questions, I might have tread that ground, and I may be able to give you some insight. I don't have all the answers, but I got a lot of them. So that's the idea of that, and that's worked out pretty good. So Crunchy Mama's with us. Coffee on the farm with a good sunrise beats Starbucks any day. Yeah, Starbucks, that's a scam. I don't even know if they'd serve me in there. I just don't have the right look. I don't. I can't. I know I'm not doing it. Yes, Keith says, yes, you do. You need to put that train horn on that truck and go downtown Cadillac. Keith showed up here like a puppy wagging his tail one day, and he says, I got something for you. And he gave me this horn. It's actually 3 horns. They're big, and it's got an air fitting on the back. And when you plug that in, if you don't have headsets on, you're not going to be hearing for a while. It is loud, right? And then there's a little valve that comes with it that is 12 volts. So all I have to do is put a little onboard compressor in my vehicle. Could even be a 12-volt electric. Not a big installation at all. And then mount that horn someplace. I'd want it under the hood. In my big truck. It would be so cool. And then just when you feel like making some noise, you can. It would be a riot. Right. I see. I would do that, Keith, but you know what would happen? I would get addicted to it because I could just see driving through Cadillac and people walking along the road and me and a couple of my kids and then hitting the horn and seeing them jump out of their skin. We would die laughing, especially if they spilled their drinks and stuff. We would die laughing. And the kids would be, I'd say, hey, you guys want to go fishing tonight? No, but we want to go into Cadillac and scare people. Yeah. That's what would happen. It would become totally addictive. I got a story for you. Brian Jacobs with us. Right on, my man. Yeah, it would be priceless. But I'm supposed to be an adult. We'll be there. We'll be there. Where are you going to be? International. Is there something? Oh, okay. Insurance is a huge scam. Yes, it is. Okay, looking forward to a cup of coffee or 2. And then David Duncan says, you could go to Starbucks if you grow a man bun and wear skinny jeans. Not happening. You know what? I hope that those clowns don't start dressing like us. That would gross me out. That would really gross me out. Anyway, they can do what they want. They just don't need to be near me. So what should I do? Briefing first or the funny story? I got a funny story. This is so cool. When I was stationed in Japan, I built a wood stove. And I used it in my house for a little while because in Japan, I had to live what they call on the economy. So I didn't have base housing. I had to live out in the world I had to live with the Japanese people. So we got a house and they don't have central heating. They don't have any heating. It's not part of the home. And so you have kerosene heaters that you take into the room that you're going to be in. And then when you go in another room, you take it in there. And it never gets really warm because they don't insulate the houses either. So it's kind of a weird thing. And Americans are used to, a home that's warm. And we're used to like 70 degrees inside in the wintertime. So you're outside, you come in. And it's probably a dumb thing because after living there for a while and living in a cold house, you kind of adapt to it. And then when you're outside, you're not very cold. And when you're inside, you're not really cold either. You kind of adapt to it. But anyway, I made this wood stove, and a friend of mine said, I'd really like to have that in my house, my Japanese house. And I said, sure. He says, I can trade you something for it. So he traded me a van, and it was a Toyota Hiace van. And over there in Japan, Japanese people cannot drive old vehicles. Yeah, if you want to find out what socialism's like, it sucks. And like they can't drive a vehicle that's like over 5 years old. They got to keep updating them. So the government has regulations and they work with the auto manufacturers, go figure. And so you're always buying a new car. You're always in debt on that car. But as an American GI there's some sort of agreement. We can drive whatever we want. If it'll run, we can drive it. And a lot of GIs will be buying 280Zs and all this stuff. Me, I didn't care. I had a good car, and then I had the van. And the van was beat up. It had dents on it and stuff. But it was really good because behind the seats where you sit, there was a slick. There was nothing there. It was just a floor, a steel floor. It was good for what I was doing. It was fine. So I was working on it one day, and my sleeve caught the windshield wiper nozzle. So it had two nozzles that came up to squirt on the windshield, right? It's a little different than the way American cars have them. But these are easily adjustable. You just bend them. They're just little tubes, tiny little tubes that are squished in the middle, and they kind of fan out a little bit. But my sleeve caught that, and I bent it. And I bent it 90 degrees to the direction of travel of the van. So it was pointed all the way over this way. And I looked at it and I thought, if I bend that back, it's going to break off. So I just said, I'll deal with it later. And driving along, maybe sometime later, and I hit the windshield wipers, and the squirter comes on at the same time, and it will give you a squirt. And I noticed that it squirted. You're driving on the other side of the car there, but I noticed it would squirt to the left, which you're driving on the left. So pedestrians would be on the sidewalk on the left. And I think we discovered this when a group of us was going golfing, which really wasn't golfing. We were going drinking, but we would go to this place called Tama Hills and kind of terrorize the place. Yeah, we actually did terrorize the place. I actually beaned a Japanese dude. I beaned him. Yeah, he said, no, go ahead and play through. And so I whacked it and I beaned the guy. But on the way down there was a lot of Japanese people. They're always waiting for buses. Japanese people wait for buses constantly, and they're very quiet, and they're looking down, and they're just quiet, obedient people. And here's this van load of American GIs, and there was probably 4 of us. And I mean, I was a designated driver, so obviously I wasn't drinking any beer, but my cohorts probably were. And I said, "Hey, watch this." I hit the squirter, the thing to squirt and it squirted to the left, and it squirted the people who were on the sidewalk. And it became this thing that we did. Like, there's two nozzles, right? And because it was so cool, the one that was squirting up in front of me to clean the windshield off, I bent that one over. And that gave me double the pressure on this one that was squirting 90 degrees and was squirting. It was the pedestrian squirter is what it was. And you know how guys give names to things. Japanese people don't like this name, and I would never say this. But they are not actually, they don't go by Japanese. We call them Japanese. They call themselves Nipponese, right? And so Americans have a tendency to kind of shorten that, and they call them nips. And when you get in country, they tell you, hey, don't say that. Don't be saying that. And you tell a bunch of 20-year-olds, don't say nip. And that's like, it's terrible. But somehow this system became known as the nipper zipper. And it was the funniest thing, because you'd be going down and all these Japanese people are waiting for a bus. There's a line of them, and you can get a whole line of them with the zipper, right? And it's really strange the way they react is they would all look straight up. They never felt as though maybe somebody just squirted me. And so you'd have a whole line of Japanese people. You got to picture this in your mind's eye. I got to remember I'm an adult here. Wait a minute. And you'd be driving down and hitting them all, and the heads would just go whoop, 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 whoop. And they'd all just, like, this whole line of people, they thought they were the only one that got squirted, and they would all look at the sky. And it was the funniest thing. It was the funniest thing. I don't know why, but we would laugh so hard. But that's another situation. When you're in a foreign country like that, certain things really tickle you, and you miss certain things about home, right? And anyway, you have a tendency to kind of have fun when you irritate the people of that country, because their ways can be irritating, can be. And so when you irritate them, it gives you a little tickle and it makes you laugh, right? So much so that one night me and my neighbors, we used to get together and study. And so I suppose we were studying. We decided, hey, let's go out and drive around the nipper zipper, because we had so much fun doing it. And one of them, I'll never forget the guy. He says, I'll bring my video camera. So this is back in the days where the video camera, you had to hold it up on your shoulder like this. And you had battery packs that, you had to have a backpack on for him. So he brings his video camera, and we just went around Fusa City squirting people. And then got back to his house and just watched the video. And people must have thought that we were insane in there, because we just laughed so hard. And that video circulated throughout the complex, and it never found its way back to us, but I never know what happened to it. There was one day, though, when something really not good happened. I had a guy that I worked with. Me and him were really good chums, Al Wright. He was a sergeant, and I was an airman. And so he outranked me by quite a bit. He was a staff sergeant. I was an E4 probably, or E3 airman, right? And we would, at lunchtime, go over to the base exchange and get a hot dog, right? If we didn't want to go to the chow hall. And so we were driving my car or my van with the nipper zipper. And we were driving through there, and there was a woman standing there, and it was a black, well, Al Wright was black, right? And this woman was black. I knew her. I mean, she was older. Like, she must have been like 30. And she was like somebody's wife, some master sergeant's wife. And I remember her, she had orange hair, right? And she was just mean looking, right? Like, you would not say anything to her. You certainly wouldn't squirt her with a nipper zipper. And I'm driving, and Al Wright reaches over and hits the lever and unleashes the nipper zipper, and he squirts her. And she looks right at us. And she came unglued. And she chased the van down. I stopped. And luckily, Al was there, and he handled the situation. And when it was over, I said, don't you ever do that again. So, different peoples react different ways, if you know what I mean. That was not a pretty situation. Anyway, but that's the nipper zipper story. I digress. I wish that video would make its way back to me somehow. That's a long time ago. That is, wow, I got over there in 1985, right? That's a long time ago. All right. So I got to tell you this. The Mitten Homestead conference is coming up. We are cruising down there Thursday to get our room and then head over to the fairgrounds just to look the thing over and, I don't know, just to see what's down there. It's a vacation for me and Jill. The kids are staying home and they're going to take care of the farm. So me and Jill got 2 days off and we are partying. We are partying hardy. So Friday, I have a block that I have to fill with pastured poultry stuff. And then Saturday, I have one for pastured pigs or heritage hogs on the homestead. I don't have anything prepared yet, but I'll get that done probably on the way down there. I am a Road Scholar, or is that Rogue Scholar? So if you haven't gotten tickets to that, they still have a few available. I talked to the lady that's putting it on, Mina Postman Sunday, and man, they're almost full up. So it sounds like it's going to be a big success. It's supposed to be nice weather that day. And so really cool. Friday and Saturday, Mitten Homestead Conference. This is a Michigan thing. And I feel pretty strongly about supporting things that are local. I mean, I'm not really wanting to get involved with the who's who and all that stuff. Well, I'm this and I'm that, and this little speaker badge that you walk around. I don't really care about that. I'm thinking that it's going to be productive because we can motivate people to get into this. And I think people are going there because they want to get into this. And also, I will be plugging Baker's Green Acres, so that's my angle on it, right? And selling biochar and all that stuff and having fun being away. Okay. So the next thing that I have to brief, we got to talk about this. What you're seeing now, and I want to bring this to your attention because I want you to know what you're looking at when you look at this. There was an article that came out in U.S. News and World Report, and Philip Jenkins sent it to me, and I have it here. I do have it. So, but what it has to do with is it has to do with H5N1 bird flu. Here it is. This is rich. you know by now that the news organizations are just propagandists. You would think US News and World Report, they're right up there with CNN. That's the reality. They are right there. There was a time when news organizations printed things, and the reporter was like, well, no, I got to be fair and unbiased on this. I'm not pushing an agenda. I'm just trying to get it out there what has actually happened. Okay, well, this is the title on this. And I don't know, if I just want to make sure that you see that I'm not making this up. Well, it's not coming through, is it? Okay. I'm not making this up. More than half of the cats on farm where bird flu infected cows died after drinking raw milk. Okay. So if you look at that and you actually dissect that statement, you see bird flu in there and you see cows died. Infected cows died. Okay. Cats on a farm where infected cows died. No. When you read the story, it's cats died. And when you read the story, I mean, what farm has 12, it says half the cats died. And then when you read the story, it's like, well, they wound up with 12 dead cats. So they had 12 dead cats. Half of that, half, if 12 died, then they had 24 cats. So think that through. You're a dairy. You're a grade A dairy. In order to be grade A, you have to live by certain regulations that the milk co-ops put out. And I know when we were looking into these things, the reason why we said, the hell with you guys, was because they want to tell you how many chickens you can have on your farm, how many dogs you can have. They want to mitigate the risk to this grade A operation. And the insurance companies say, this is what we want. If we're going to insure you, this is what we want. We do not want you to have cats on the farm. Well, what about the mice? Put poison out for them. I'm not kidding. That's what they say. Yeah, but I don't want to have poison around if we've got milk. What if some kid picks it up and puts it in the, but they're stupid anyway. So they say stupid things. And it's written by lawyers that don't have any real experience with the operation that so anyway, they're control freaks, and that's what they do. But when I read this story, I say, this sounds like baloney to me, that a farm, a dairy farm, a grade A dairy farm, you'd be hard pressed. This is in the great state of Texas. You'd be hard pressed to find a grade A dairy operation that's less than 200 cows now. Like, you just don't see them anymore. I know of one that milks 100, my neighbor, but they're few and far between. Most of them are 500 and above. And the people who work there are employees. They're punching a clock. That's it. Now, on a 80 cow farm, you might have one or two cats, but they would have names probably, like we have a cat. And his name is, I forget what his name is right now. But we don't have 24 cats. 24 cats. Think of that. That's a large number of cats. Who inventoried the cats? Did the cats just die in the parking lot? Did they die where you could find them? If an animal is sick and they're going to die, they usually go and hide and die. They don't lay out in the open where you can find their dead body. They don't. That's not how it works. And so what they're trying to tell you here is that the bird flu is so deadly that cats that drank raw milk died. So what do we have here? What is that? That is what is called anecdotal evidence. Anecdotal evidence. Does that necessarily, within that story, is there proof given that they autopsied the cats? Sure enough, this one's got milk in its belly, and they tested the milk, and the milk is, H5N1 positive, and we'll do a comprehensive autopsy on this dead cat, and sure enough, he died from the bird flu. No, they don't give you that. They're just saying, well, half of them died. If that ain't enough evidence for you, I don't know what. It's anecdotal evidence that got spit on the wall by some author at U.S. News and World Report. And people are going to read this all over the place, and they're going to say, oh, and they'll read that one, and they'll read this one, and they'll read this one. I've read a whole bunch of them. The common denominator on these stories, they're all anecdotal evidence, is that, the common denominator here is raw milk. And so if you are a weak-minded person that reads these things, you say to yourself, well, I'm not going to drink raw milk. But the problem is that they're having, and that they don't understand, that weak-minded people don't seek out raw milk. That's just the way it is. They don't do it, right? They're people who have researched it and decided, because there's enough evidence out there. Oh, raw milk this, raw milk that. There's enough evidence out there, evidence that raw milk is medicinal. It's actually life-saving, right? If you drink raw milk and you live a longer time than you would if you were drinking store milk, and your body is constantly got to flush garbage out of your system, raw milk, because it's cooked. It's not milk anymore. It's something else once it's cooked. Where milk, raw milk, grass-fed raw milk, gives you the building blocks to live to 120 years old. It gives you that. That's why butter is so precious, because it's condensed, right? It's condensed goodness, right? Sunshine and lollipops and all that good stuff. So a lot of this anecdotal evidence is out there, and I find one of the best ways to deal with it, these BS stories that they're putting out. These BS stories, if you really look at it and you really see if you really can wrap your head around, and like, do I have all the authors in front of me? No, I don't. But you've all seen these montages of news anchors that are all saying the same thing. U.S. News and World Report, they probably have an editing staff that does things for the Associated Press. And if a story doesn't meet the message that they're trying to push, that somebody is paid to push, then it doesn't make it. So all the stories right now about H5N1, they're all, oh boy, this could be the next Wu flu, right? They're all the same. And they are coming up with new anecdotal evidence all the time to convince the weak-minded people, stay away from raw milk. Go get that red cap stuff at the store. Drink that. It makes us sick. Yeah, but you're safe. You're safe from H5N1. You won't die from it. Well, no one's dying from it anyway. Well, some cats died. See, I can just hear, I can just hear it, right? But those people are not in my circle. Anyway, if anybody was throwing that at me, I would be like, oh, okay. See ya. You won't be invited over for dinner anytime soon. Go ahead. Drink that stuff if you want to. You probably don't want my milk. You really don't want people like that in your circle anyway, because if all of a sudden they get a stomach cramp and they just drank a glass of raw milk, oh no, it must be H5N1, right to the hospital that they go. And who knows who's going to be at the hospital? Could be some blue hair that would be saying, oh, it must be the raw milk, right? So anyway, but this is going on. Whether it goes as far as the Wu flu remains to be seen, because we don't have much to do with it. We don't. We'll still continue to milk cows. We'll still continue to drink raw milk and make raw milk available to our friends and neighbors and our patrons. We will still do that. The only way that they can stop me from doing that is if you go down to the state capitol and you guys on the left and you guys on the right get a bill together and make a law. And then law enforcement is engaged, and they would be the one that says, if you do it anymore, I'm cuffing you. Okay, we got a law. I follow laws. But right now we don't have a law. So it's actually, raw milk is governed under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. That's it. I have the right to this process. Just because you guys don't like it for whatever your BS reasons are, doesn't mean I believe that. And you can't make me stop. So I am bringing this up because the plot thickens a little bit. I got a call last Friday, left on the home phone, on the answering machine. So-and-so from the Associated Press would like to talk to me about raw milk. And so normally I don't like to talk to those agencies because they can ask you a question. They can say, how old are you? You can say how old you are, but they can write something else. And you don't have any recourse. Oh, you can sue them. You can sue them if you want. But like, you're dealing with a monster and you're suing them for defamation. It's going to cost you a lot of money. So they can write all the nonsense they want and say, Mark said, but there's not really much you can do. There really isn't. Integrity in that world is non-existent, right? So anyway, I called the woman back. I left my phone number on my cell phone. And I said, sure, I'll talk to you about raw milk. So she called and she said, seeing how, people, cows have tested positive for H5N1 in Michigan, aren't you afraid that you're going to get people sick with your milk? If that ain't a loaded question, I don't know what is. Because if I say, no, I don't give a damn, she's going to say, well, this guy, he doesn't even care. It's all about money. He just wants to make money. She could say that. And so how do you answer a question like that? And I said, well, I'm not convinced that it's reality at this point because I haven't seen any scientific data. And she said, well, here's a story right here. There was a study done at the University of Arkansas, probably. So a bunch of college students do a study, and then they pass it in. And the professor says, oh, yeah, you got some pretty good evidence here. Anecdotal. Is he signing it? Is it a white paper? Is it something we can hold them responsible for, accountable for? Like, if you put out your PhD and you put out a white paper saying that, yeah, no joke here, this is a problem. Tim Jones, PhD, that means something. And if that sways the market and you did it falsely, Mr. PhD, from a university that's tenured, ooh, that's a hanging offense. That's a hanging offense. We're not seeing any of that. We're seeing just anecdotal evidence right now. Now, who knows? Who knows where it'll go? Like, who would benefit from a total ban on raw milk sales? Who would benefit from that? Well, the red cap people, for sure. Of course, actually, I would benefit because I know there's a lot of people that are doing raw milk that would say, oh, that's deep water. I'm not going in there. I got a life jacket. I'm not worried about it. I would probably pick up more customers. I will not. I'm telling you right now, unless they pass a law in Lansing. Or I told this babe from the AP, I said, no, if the state is serious about it, like the Department of Agriculture, if you're serious about it, put your money where your mouth is. Buy my cows. Buy my cows. But my cows will live to be 15 years old, and they will give me lots of gallons of milk that's worth $10 a gallon. So those cows are going to be expensive, right? I'm not saying I won't sell them to you. If you're that concerned that your beloved public is going to get sick and somehow it's coming back on you, Department of Ag, how's it going to come back on you? If you're that concerned, buy my cows. But by putting out anecdotal evidence and trying to shame us, right? Shame us into stop doing what we're doing. Like, don't you know you're going to kill grandma's cat? After all, 12 cats in the state of Michigan, in the state of Texas died. So by me milking cows and doing herd shares, don't you know cats could die? Baby kittens could die. I don't think they're going to get any traction with this. I don't. And I told this babe that. I said, these young mothers are not listening to you anymore. They're not listening to the Department of Agriculture anymore. I mean, what was Trust the Science all about? Trust the Science now is a joke. It's a way people say, oh, yeah, remember that? You remember that? Oh, get this shot, man. Get this shot. This will keep you from getting the Wu flu. And you won't transmit it. And of course, it's safe and effective. It wasn't safe or effective. And we're finding all that out now. So whenever you hear Trust the Science, people think, either they think, I'd like to get that guy because so-and-so took that shot and now they're dead. Or I took it and now every time, I get an acre of pain, I feel like, well, is this, some thing growing inside of me from taking that shot? So these young mothers that are buying raw milk, they're not doing it to be trendy. They're doing it because they've thought it out. They want what's best for their children. Like, you never mess with a woman, somebody's kid. You never mess with some woman's kid because she may be the cutest, frailest, most feminine, but you fool with their kid, and you're going to see some fangs come out that you do not want to deal with. You do not mess with those. Just like you don't fool around with a grizzly sow. The boars, they'll walk away from you. They don't care. They're motivated by food unless they feel like eating you. But the sow, you look crossways at her cubs and she will kill you. She will kill you and then eat you, right? So these young mothers are seeing through this BS. And so that's who they have to overcome. So I did this interview with this babe. I hope that it comes out. I really do. It was so odd. It's like she was calling here to inform me of all the things that I should be afraid of, and then say, well, you're not afraid? Oh, you must be, right? And at one point, she said, oh, so you worked for the military for 20 years and you don't trust your government. And I could see that I can hear her writing it down. Like that's going to be part of her story. Like that's sort of like saying, that's a slam. Here's a guy that worked for the military, he's taking a military retirement, but he don't trust the government. She's probably going to say, and he probably has an AR-15. He probably does. Yeah, all those things that they love to slam. Probably a white supremacist as well. Yeah, I should have told. Yeah, they have their slams that they know that the weak-minded want to hear because they want to tip our influence to make us look like, oh, you're probably a Trump supporter. Remember that one? Trump supporter. You're a Trump supporter. As if it was big. Where did they get that? Oh, you're a Trump supporter. Oh, you're a vaccine denier. Oh, you're a climate change denier. You can just, they're running out of ammo. They're really running out of ammo. You're probably a homophobe. Yeah, I'm afraid, a phobic, like an acrophobe or a aquaphobic, fear of the water. Homophobe would be fear of homos. Fear, afraid of them. Well, like if I see him, like, ooh. Or it's like a male kissing scene in a movie. Is that like a horror movie to me? No, it's just ick. Homophobe. That doesn't even make sense. Oh, he's homophobic. Afraid of homosexuals? No, I'm not afraid of them. No. So they have all their things that they're gonna use to try and tear down the people who are opposing this BS agenda of H5N1. Now, could I be wrong? Oh yeah. It could be H5N1 is legit. But this babe, I said to her, well, do you know where it came from? And she said, well, no, I don't. I said, well, how come you don't know? And don't the scientists that are not signing their name on these white papers, do they know where it came? Well, I wouldn't know about that. I haven't researched that. Oh, do you think maybe you should? Maybe you're pushing an agenda that's not real. Maybe the milk lobby wants more of their market share back. Maybe they're afraid of the trajectory of farms that are milking cows that are eating grass, and the milk is going to young mothers who are smart and don't want to eat the garbage from the store. Could that be? I never thought of that. Nah, she didn't. She did. She's a successful writer for the AP because they publish her stories. Why do they publish her stories? Because they sound good. They're in line with the agenda that they're trying to press. That's it. Don't you believe them for an instant? And we can definitely talk about this more. Like I would not be surprised if all of a sudden, Department of Agriculture bans the sale of raw milk. Well, when did we give them the authority to ban anything? How are you going to enforce that? Do you have a law that I'm breaking that law enforcement can come? The men with the guns and the handcuffs? They're the only ones that can do that. Department of Ag people, they have white coats and hairnets and clipboards, but they can't do it. They can't touch you. They maybe like, I like what they do. They do really fun things. They have tape, and they'll put tape on your refrigerator. Like it's so strong that you can't open the fridge. You can't sell that milk because they taped it. So stupid. If you guys listen to them, you're doing yourself a disservice. Actually, what you need to do is resist it, because it is definitely a form of tyranny. Let them haul somebody into court, and then in the court, we'll force them to give us scientific evidence that H5N1 exists and that it exists in my cows. Now, how are you going to do that? How are you going to get that evidence? I'm never going to allow you to test my cows. I'm not going to do that. They're mine. You can't touch them. And let's say, oh, well, so-and-so got sick, so that gives us the authority. No, it don't. No, it don't, because you can't prove that those cats died from H5N1. Say some little kid gets sick. How are you going to prove that it was the milk, right? Because they're saying H5N1 comes from birds, wild birds. Well, that's not my problem. These are on my property. That's your problem. If my cows come down with H5N1, I'm suing you guys because you own the birds. No, they don't own the birds. They don't. They'll say that that's the funniest thing with the DNR. They want you to pay them money for permission to shoot a deer, right? So do you guys own the deer? Well, no. Well, how come I got to get permission from you to shoot it if you don't own it? Like, how does this work? If you own it, then if I run into one with my car, it's the same as if I run into my neighbor's cow that he's allowed to be out in the road, which mine have been in the road, so I'm not slamming them. His have never been in the road. But let's say they did, and I hit his cow. His insurance has to cover my repairs, right? So if I hit a deer and I send the bill to the DNR, they will say, we don't own these. Well, where do you get off selling me permission to shoot them then? Where do you get off with that? See, our society right now, there's a lot of things that they will throw at you. And it's like, well, that sure is confusing. That's exactly where they want you. Exactly where they want you. They want you dazed and confused all the time. And when you simplify your life, like the process that we're doing, there's a whole lot less confusion. And a process like, say, like raising a chicken, a certain amount of feed goes into the chicken. And then when the time is right, you cut the head off the chicken, you pull the feathers off the chicken, you look at it, you gut the chicken, you look at it, and then it goes in the roasting pan, and that night you have chicken. There is no confusion in that process. None. But let's talk about deer hunting. Coming from the DNR, right? Get their rule book and try to know that you're okay with the deer you shot. Try to know that. How about fishing? Let's try that. They change their rules every year. You know, you buy a permit, you're agreeing, you know, a license, you're agreeing to go by what's in this book. That's not example. It's not the fishing regulations. I have them, but it's, you know, it's about that thick, and it's really confusing. That's their game, to keep you off balance. That way, when that conservation officer comes up to you, there's a pretty damn good chance, even if you have memorized that regulation book, that you may have done it said, you know, it says this, and then he'll find, well, didn't you read this little parentheses down here? Today's a Tuesday, and it's Martin Luther King Day, so you're not supposed to take these, right? They do that. And those types, those things, those confusing things, you need to just separate yourself from them. Just separate. Now, I like to go fishing, so I won't be separating myself from that. I'll just let the fish go. How about that? And I'll build my own pond, and I'll stock it with my own fish. And those are the ones I'll keep, right? But very good. Very good. There will be more to come on that H5N1 if we need to. But if it goes away, then fine. You guys could do me a favor. I made a couple of videos, and they were sarcastic videos. I tried to make them funny, because when these organizations put this type of information out, they're actually, if it's not true, then we can pretty much put it in the category of spells and incantations, right? What they're putting out a group of words, a story. It's not true, and it's meant to sway certain people. It's meant to sway human beings, right? Spell. That's a spell. An incantation. Incantations where they like that that title. It was they used words, and when you look at it, you see cows died, and then when you really digest it, it's no, the cats died, right? If a cow is dying from H5N1, if a bird, a wild bird, can land on a cow's back, which I don't think that even happens. I don't think I've seen that happen. And I have cows. But if that's the case, that's pretty powerful. That's pretty darn powerful if that's the case, which I don't think it is, but that's what they're saying. So the way you break spells and incantations is with mockery, right? You make fun of them. They hate it. So I made several videos just making fun of H5N1. And I would really appreciate it if you guys would go and find those. They're either on Baker's Green Acres Facebook, or they're on Mark Baker Facebook. Find them and then share them. Share the heck out of them. I want a lot of people to see them because I'm making fun of their of their spells, and I'm going to continue to do it too. So you remember what they did last time with the Wu flu? People were in a total confusion mode because we all knew that, say, putting arrows down on the floor in the supermarket and keeping people all walking the same direction, that ain't going to do nothing. We all knew that, but yet they went to a lot of time and effort to do that. And so you kind of go, what? Are the people that run this store, are they dumb? This is a nice store. This is a beautiful store. This is run by smart people, but they did this? I'm confused. Or you go in a store and they say, well, you have to have a piece of fabric over your face to keep the Wu flu from spreading. And I thought you said it was a virus. And viruses, well, it's like a BB going through a chain link fence, this face mask that I have on. That's dumb. Yeah, but you gotta. I don't know. I'm confused. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. That was the point. Confusion. Keep you confused. Well, I like to go to the strip club. Well, you can still go there. No problem. But not church. Who do you think you are? If you want to go to church, you can sit in the parking lot and listen to it on the AM radio. How about that? But keep your face mask on. That's confusing. Strip club's okay. The bar's okay. But see, and we think, is our society that dumb? No, it was meant to be confusing. Our governor, the prestigious Governor Whitmer, she actually directed stores to close down the areas where they sell seeds and gardening supplies and paint. And these freaking idiots did it. Like the Home Depot. They did it. I'll never forget that. Like, I do go to Home Depot because they got stuff I need, but I'm not loyal to them, and I never will be because of that. Now, the stores I go to, my local stores, Ebel's and McBain Lumber and McBain Hardware, and my local stores that were not confused by the whole thing. They were like, "This is dumb. We're not doing it." I am loyal to them, and I will be, because I know something else is coming. It could be coming. And will I go to Home Depot? Like Home Depot, there's like 4 places you can walk in the store. They wanted everybody to walk through one and everybody to exit through one. What does that do? What does that do? For the weak-minded, they think, oh, to keep from getting the Wu flu, when you kids come home from school, we want you to come in the front door. And when you're going to school, we want you to go out the back door. Direction of flow, direction of flow. A weak-minded person doesn't get confused by things like this. It's only the thinkers that get confused. The weak-minded ones are like, okay, stay home. Okay. Government check. Fine. You're going to have to pay this back. I don't care. I got it right now. I eat Hot Pockets anyway, so who cares? So it's one of their things, and to mock it is the way to break those spells, because you're basically telling them, we don't believe you, and you use satire to inform others that this really is a bunch of what. It really is. I think I'm going to share this with my friends so they can see it. So, the people who put these things together are the bureaucrat class. They are the parasite class. They don't produce products, they produce influence. And they can't use the truth, because if they were telling the truth, people would be like, well, then I'm not going to do that. They have to make up things. And they use their willing accomplices in the media, like this babe that I did an interview with. Who knows what she'll write what I said. I told her, we don't believe you anymore. It will take a long time before we believe the media. And we certainly don't believe government contractors like Department of Agriculture, Department of Natural Resources, any of them. We don't believe them. They lie. They lie. Now, if they had a record of being prestigious, honest, sober, all that stuff, but they don't. They don't. Their universities, you don't even want to go there anymore. Yeah. Okay, like one of the examples that always just shines bright in my face is the Bruce Jenner thing. And I think for me, it's because when I was 16, he was a big deal. And he was on Wheaties, with all the medals that he won and all that stuff. He was a great guy. And people looked up to him. I was, I think, 15 or 16 at the time. And then fast forward the tape, and now he's a 65-year-old dude, and he's wearing a dress. And he's got fake things and long hair and fingernails and all that stuff. And goes on the Hannity show, Sean Hannity, the truth teller, Sean Hannity, goes on there. Sean Hannity legitimizes it by calling him Caitlin. I'm a girl now, and I want to be called Caitlin. That's weird, and it's confusing. It is confusing because I'm looking at that and saying, you're not a woman. You're not. I don't care what you say. You're not a woman. And I'm not going to call you Caitlin. I won't call you anything. I'll call you nuts. That's it. I'm certainly not going to legitimize it by having you on my show. I would never have Caitlyn Jenner on my show. I'm not going to legitimize that. I'm not going to say, well, tonight, very special guest is Caitlyn Jenner. I'm not going to do that. And Hannity did that. But he's no better. He's no better than any of them. He really isn't. He's just a mouth for hire. He'll say whatever he's told. But it was very confusing because even Hannity, you wouldn't think that he would stoop to that. You wouldn't think, because he would say, man, my people that listen to me, they're going to think I've lost it. I want to maintain. No, that's what we want, Sean. We want people to be confused. So you do it, okay? Good boy, Sean. You do that. And we'll make sure that you get compensated. Oh, okay. Tail wagging. He'll do it. And he did. And that was the operation of the day, was just keep the people confused. Anything that's going on right now, If we were to sit down, we're having coffee together. Hey, so what do you think about what's going on in Israel? I don't know what's going on in Israel. I don't know what's going on in the Gaza Strip. There's no way of knowing. There really isn't. Because all the sources are so garbled. And this one says this is happening. This one says this is happening. You don't know. And that's the point. It's garbled. Well, what about this? You just don't know. But you can know about that roast chicken that you're going to eat. You can know about that. How's your garden doing? Oh, it's doing pretty good. I've got this up and this up and this up. It's not like you look out there and I don't know. Let me tune into CNN and see what's happening in my garden. No, you know. And the human needs that grounding. You need that grounding. All right. I think, okay. Good show. Good show. David Duncan says, nipper zipper. Isaiah has that train horn on his truck. That's better than the potential farm in Sears, Michigan. Queers from Sears. Hey, Alabama, your cows will live a lot longer than 15 years. Well, thanks for the information. Randy Weaver didn't trust the government he worked for. Yeah, I know about Randy Weaver. He was at a gun show out in, oh, well, that's not a story we want to get into right now. Oh, yeah, give us the thumbs up. What if those cats died from cat scratch fever? Yeah, that's another one. Chris Heitzstuman. Just remember the motorcyclist who hit a car at 65 miles per hour died of COVID. Yeah, I know that. He's a cross-dressing pervert. I know. I don't even know if he is a pervert. He's definitely a troubled individual. And, to legitimize that, you're not helping the guy out. You're really not. Somebody needs to take him aside and say, hey, Bruce, this looks really bad. You really don't even make an attractive woman. Not even close. Like, it's not cool. Not cool. Wasn't he hooked up with some of the Kardashian people? Like, he was married to one of them. And there's a ton of money in that. Those people want for nothing. And I don't know. Like, they just print money. So why do we pay taxes? Why do we pay taxes if they just print money? Why don't they just print more? Yeah. All right. I think we're all getting the feel of what's going on. But I appreciate people coming by tonight. Hopefully I see some of you at the Homesteader Conference. If you see me and I don't know you, but you're part of this show, please come up and say hello, and we can chat. The whole purpose of this is to fellowship and pass information on and all that good stuff. So I plan on having a good time if I can. All right. That's it. If I need to brief anything to you on H5N1, I will, but I will be making some more videos on it. Just satire videos and stuff. So we can expect a toilet paper shortage or something like that, because they're not real good at coming up with new narratives. All right. See you next time. See you tomorrow night. Some of yous, anyone can.